All right, so thank you for this opportunity. My name is Peris Karanja. For those who don't know me, mothers in your wakulia shulia. Maybe I am a correct makirigo juragia shulia ni yugo na makimenya mode de wakiri. Nagogerera nini de wakafete kule hana imete. Kaduraka nyogo. I have a few people here and there. That's Wangige. But other than that, Christ is Lord. I'm a member of this church. I think Ogokure are excited. He near Yamaheto idea no Reverend Wainaina. We never imagined we'd come this far, and we thank God for the far that He's taken us. The other thing I would want to mention, amazing grace, but for me it is a personal testimony. He modojo wera no akwire nigeragira maudu maingi muno, but the last time I had an incident, I think one of my brothers naigire Peris, we don't understand no reto it seems kaiya ko bitagira kaigi muno. I think if there is one person the word amazing grace comes alive to, I think it's myself. Better know akwire 2004 because then I was diagnosed with cancer. That's about 20 years ago. And here I am by the grace of God. Later on, I think, previously, I had a carjacking accident. I think Ankaruki will tell you, it's one of the most dramatic things. Somebody keeps on telling me I should write a book. In fact, different groups. That's how come I ended up in this church. No more the Westlands, the Westlands. That did not group figure, in fact, but they didn't touch me. Actually, they actually bought me glucose, biscuits, and soda so that I could come back. Namake forced me soda, talking one out, having stayed in the boot for about 5 hours. Did I be down so that I could come back to life. I've been involved in about 3 major accidents. In fact, in Ahero, some people passed on. Kiambu Road twice. I'll try and be brief. That I'll be very fast. I'm usually very fast. 2 years, the last one. Let me talk about the last one. The last time I was involved in an accident, Okaka Nidona Sunday. And Darugire Raini, Yakuni Naivas, Giroga Raini, Shere, Shia, Oyokanago, Giroga Cab, Giroga Raini, Gerashia Galilea, Shirokana Nairofi. I ended up, Hakwena Rejoice, when I was Rejoice supermarket, right at the end. When I'm for you, I walk in an energy, this is so special. And God in His mercy and love and kindness, there was not a single person. Utiare Garion Makiabu, Utiare Matatu, Utiare Boda, Utiare pedestrian. So I take it as just God sending His angels just to protect me. Now, that the office, we usually have a morning devotion. And when I told them what had happened, one of them told me, Madam, we saw you in an accident. About a week ago, I saw you. I have some very spiritual people in the office. And for the last 1 week, me, Monica, and Edward have been interceding and praying for you. Don't it want your accident here? And I'm like, okay. Paula also usually prays for me, for those who know Peris Karanja. And that Saturday before the Sunday, she had written a very passionate and personal message. And later on I told her Monday, Paula, that's why you are interceding. So that's just in a nutshell what amazing grace means to me as a person, because it's real. When I talk about amazing grace, it's really in my life. Now time has passed. we have our guests who are here, who are coming for the afternoon. What I'm going to say is, I'll just simply touch on the law. We can always have this discussion later on. And interesting enough, I actually talked to other ladies. I might not have spoken maybe to yourselves, but one of my life's purposes actually is to impact positively where I can, within my sphere of influence. So I like sharing what I have, and we can always share. If you think you need to come and see me personally, please, you're welcome to do so. We can always talk and we can always have a chat. Now, law is a very technical subject. Now we have to shift our mind to the law, and it's very wide. Property, family, wills, maybe just no introduction to, maybe we can always pick up the next time. I'm also alive that we have our mothers here, so I have taken that into consideration. But maybe as what was said, if it doesn't apply to you, other people and other and other relatives that you could always impart the knowledge on. Maybe by saying is so that is our parent law, the Constitution of Kenya. 2010. But other than Katiba, family, you can also get laws and any other subject from the court. So there's also judge-made law as well. And interesting thing about Ohoroa families, now even the judges themselves are not able to come up with, would I say, something concrete. The other day, matrimonial property in the Supreme Court. No, I think it's best dealt on a case-to-case basis. I think it's the same thing also when it comes to property and marriage. There are no hard and straight rules. So the law just more or less gives some sort of guidelines, but it doesn't have solutions. Now the other thing, the family division or the courts or the laws don't provide solutions. Actually, I think Heke is doing and it's real. Heshira wa muguda wa tuire wa family cia wa ngige na jaji atuore atuire actually muthuri ucio ndararire tondu acokire akiurago ni one, I think one of the sons, and it's true because jaji uria kaga kana magistrate aroraga wira uria we enake, and if you have a good lawyer you'll have your good day in court. No dugukoro utuete shira ka dugukoro urehete dayo. I think the word is peace. Dugukoro urehete dayo mushuyo. So as much as we talk about the law, when it comes to family matters, the best thing is to try and look for what we call alternative dispute resolutions. Nowadays we have what we call mediation. Arbitration, mediation. Na mediation actually ni nyumura ikaradi muga itwira shira. Kiria mediator reka ni kumuonereria jira. Because actually more often than not, law comes in when love fails. So it's important that we try and keep our families intact and live in peace and avoid going to courts. Actually, it's even biblical, isn't that so? I think to Ireto Berea to Diego Tini It's in Luke, isn't it? It's in the Gospel according to Luke. We shouldn't be quick. We should be very slow to apply the law. But that not said, I'll come to the law of succession. The law of succession no ginyogerera igotine kana hena shida kana hatire. Iyo ni mundu wothe ukuite no ginya indo ciake igayo ni igoti. And now that I've touched on that, ona tugithia gwa shifo no wega tumenye in some institutions no wega tumenye shifo dali na hinya wa gushira wa succession. Ni agukuhe marwa maheanago, but he has no legal authority. Kogo kaigene nyonaga andu maturite gwa shifo miaka na miaka, and I'm not demeaning the chief, I'm just simply stating the law. They are good for social order, but they have not been empowered legally gutua mashira ma migoda na mashira ma succession. So I think ugiaji agatene that process, it will make things move faster. What I wanted to mention and start with in detail, 5 minutes of each. I wanted to touch maybe on the family and marriage. Let me start with marriage. And in the Constitution, Article 45(2), I will not keep on quoting the Constitution, but I think this one is important because what I'm trying to touch on is whether the Sheje to the Supreme Court. No, harari na shirorare hawa LGBT. Tigo, eto chwe shiro. But I just wanted to distinguish the fact that at least the Constitution aligns with our customary values and with ourselves as Christians. Katiba bado ireho, and it provides that every adult has the right to marry a person of the opposite sex, and based on the free consent of the parties. Kwa katiba ito detekeretie gayism and lesbianism. It still provides for marriages of the opposite sex, male and female. I think we are aware of the case. The issue before the court was the right of association for LGBTs. Not that I agree with it. There are some two judges, Justice Ogo and Justice Mohammed Ibrahim Nemare, and even Roshio. But why I wanted to mention it, katiba ni tekereti ya dhuri na mahikani na dhuri. Asha de tekereti ya kanatumia mahikani na tumia. Shiroshio rewe kire nikuhe the right of association for LGBTs. They have urea togo to shemaniti etagi kudikia mother. They have a right to associate, but they still are not, our constitution still does not recognize their marriages. As much as we know maybe they could be happening, I thought that was clear. I needed to clarify that. The other thing maybe I wanted to mention is regarding marriages. Mawatho maikaraga magishenjagia kaingi na kaingi na mawatho maria mararihotimo mariu, and currently we have what we call the Marriage Act. Kogo hiki wothe wa bururi wa Kenya. I think for the young people you can make a point of learning them. You can read. Nowadays you can get the acts online. We also have what we call the Kenya Law Reports. No dhomage mashira rimwenari mohiyo wakionorea madikete. But in the Marriage Act, na act yokire into being 2014. Alafu no dia hotire kuruta wira ginya 2017. There are guidelines the act is going to be implemented came into being. Hedeshio the wado ogetuo if it's enacted. Regulations. So the regulations are the ones that, determine how that act is going to be applied. More to be in 2014, 2017 is when the regulations were enacted. Maybe what to note, I don't know, for the old St. Paulians, namukuririkana engineer Bogo neokire na akiuga tohoro ucio, and I think it threw us into panic. Kushia todokire akera adore, if you don't have a marriage certificate, you're not married. And everybody was like, where? You know? But I will look at that very briefly. Wadosho ugete, it defines a marriage to include a voluntary union of a man and a woman. Now, this is where I want us to note, this section 3, whether in a monogamous or polygamous union. Now, there are 5 ways you can get married in this country. You can either get married under the Islamic law, Hindu, and for our purposes that won't apply, customary, civil, or a church marriage. Now, what I wanted us to note in a nutshell is that, unlike before, uhiki wa customary ni wagiriirwo ni kuheo certificate. Tene twathiaga tukarashia na tukaguraria na horo cio gathirira hau na ira magaikara meho. But from 2017, ogorora iga uhiki waku ni wa Kiugikuyu. I think most of us are Kikuyus, ogoro uhikite Kiugikuyu, then you need a certificate. Otherwise, then, when it comes to the legal question whether you are married or not, we will tell you under the law you are not. To do a certificate. How do you get a kuhindiriria muno? Toni joe kuria mwaitu mekete uhiki Kiugikuyu no matithiete kwa Attorney General. Tondu uria watho ugite ni ati 3 months thutha wa mieri 3 mwarikie magongona manyu tukiuga ni tagurario ni wagiriirwo guthie kuregistrithia kwa Attorney General na thutha wa mieri 6 ni wagiriirwo guthie kuheo certificate. So even if you're married customarily, you need a marriage certificate. I think that's one thing I wanted to make very clear. Now, the challenging thing about cohabitation, and I wanted just to read the law very briefly. We could be, especially back homes, kuria tumete. Ado ni maikaranagia, na maikaranagia tamuthuri na mutumia, that is definitely no doubt. But then the law does not recognize such unions. Kugikorwo na thina riu no wambire guthie igoti-ini to presume your marriage, to have what we call presumption of marriage. Ugikorwo utari na certificate na kiuria ni gioka kana wi mutumia kana nduri mutumia, no uthitire cira igoti-ini niguo tumenye kana wi mutumia kana nduri mutumia. Koguo ni wega, I would urge that whether we are married under the Christian marriage or customarily, no wega twinyitire document. You know, law is all about documents. Not even so much from even your husband. I worked at FIDA 20 years ago, and it is shocking. And your brothers-in-law magaru kagadu. You wouldn't believe it. We are still, I guess, human beings and prone to, would I say, a lot of sin. Todo atumia kaigini mahinyagiririo muno muno. Todo mundu muikaranitie nake hau 20-30 years nya ukanere igotio na ndari akuona. Kana gwite kiugo gya gutura. Ifaka ige atumia na matihota kuheana wira. Todo ni agugututhia na kumia utukamba tukajanshira. Tonia kuga kindu gigutura. Todo kire arenda no kurumirira mugunda. And if you had that document, okorumana karatathi kau kiuria kawe mutumia ka ndure mutumia giti, you would never have a reason. Actually, the Marriage Act, watho cio daiga udiraga na mohiki maitu, doesn't even make any provision for cohabitation. So if you have, somebody who is cohabiting, please tell them to get a marriage certificate. It is important from a legal perspective. What the law defines cohabiting is, in the definition section, it says this way: cohabit means to live in an arrangement in which an unmarried couple, lives together in a long-term relationship that resembles a marriage. We are together? I'm too fast. I can always maybe try and look for notes later and prepare. But if you are cohabiting and you don't have a marriage certificate, the law says you are unmarried and you live in a long-term relationship that resembles ehia na kehiko, not kehiko. No maundu majagia guthukira. Tondu tureciria turi ahiku na naguo watho raiga twina nitagerekano nitaki, I don't know, I'm trying to put it in there. We are in an institution that resembles a marriage. So it's important we encourage ciana citu. I think ciana citu nio maratororokia na maundu maya ma cohabitation. I think as most of us, I'm sure, I think I think some of us together here no turuge here share to do net Maria mother pani. But I think ciana citu nisho maybe they need just to be taught some of these things. That for their own legal protection, I think they need a marriage certificate. The other one thing I wanted to mention about marriage before I move maybe to property is the disadvantage of getting a certificate under customary law. You can get married in 5 ways, but we are not dealing with Islamic and Hindu. It doesn't concern us. But a Christian marriage is monogamous. Muthuri omwe na mutumia omwe. So is a civil marriage. But a customary marriage is potentially polygamous. Ko ogethie woe certificate yaku na yandiko kihiko gyaku ni customary, then it means you cannot complain kwa rehumo wa keri na wa gatatu. So we also need to be careful rĩrĩa tũraheo certificate. Okay, certificate ciothe cia kanitha ikoragwo i Christian marriage. No ngĩkorwo wĩna mũndũ ũrathiĩ kwa Attorney General, amenyerere mũno ndakoe certificate aige they are married under customary law. Because then you can see where the challenge comes in. It's the same case with an Islamic marriage. The two of them, the law recognizes that they are potentially polygamous. So igekiugo ikimwega, okay, direct go idukiriria our culture and customs. No hikimwega is a Christian marriage or the civil marriage, because then it protects you as an individual. I think maybe I can move on to property. We are together. Don't adome mageshoga. Nijoni the toiria. Na nini guge tutukaria. Am I making sense? Okay. All right. Now, matrimonial property. This is actually my pet subject. Way back when I was in the university over 30 years ago, I wrote a dissertation on this. It's a very raw area. In fact, I want to hear about matrimonial property. There is an act of parliament to metaga matrimonial. It's Matrimonial Matrimonial Property Act 2013. It's a very small act. And there are a lot of cases in court regarding property. Now, the challenge with matrimonial property is, I don't make on the basis of trust. I mean, even for myself, because that's not the basis of marriage. It's meant to be a lifetime commitment and relationship. But I think when Jesus was asked why Moses taught on divorce, why was there a law on divorce? Why did Moses teach about divorce? I think what Jesus answered was that because we are hard people, and as such, the issues do come into play of property. Maybe what I would want to mention about property is the best way to protect yourself and your children, if you can, is to have property registered jointly with your spouse. Because then what happens if it's not registered jointly is that upon the death of a spouse, then you're open then to very many other, would I say, third parties. Because if you are registered jointly with your spouse and one of you exits, I'll put it as A and B. If A and B are registered jointly as owners of property and A exits, all you need to do is present a death certificate and B becomes the owner. Now, unlike when A is the only one registered, then what happens in that case then, you'll have to go through the succession process. So for your own interest, I think it will be important. I know it's not always possible, but I think it is important. What I used to tell people those days, I know times have changed, but I think it's good as ladies we take an interest on what's going on also in our homes. Those days the daughter I says, I don't know. Kamulia then tokekehiga te mugoda itoi naba. Because then for me as a lawyer, I act on the information that you avail to me. So it's important that we get information, and even before we take some actions, that we find out. I think Yokabi kept on talking about them. I think they're constructing a house on their, would I say, if I got her right, it could be maybe inherited land. And part of that challenge comes if one day you want to claim a share of that land. Now the law provides that properties inherited under customary law is excluded from matrimonial property. No, they got in and uge, no reda kuliho contribution, no mugoda wahayane na kugaya. It's not matrimonial property. I think that's one of the things maybe I would want to state. This is what is matrimonial property. The matrimonial home or homes. Household goods and effects, and any other property jointly owned and acquired during the subsistence of the marriage. But the exception, property including property held in trust under customary law, does not form part of matrimonial property. Oh no, but I think information is power. Then do so with the knowledge that is exempted from matrimonial property. But you can, maybe if things go west, you can claim for contribution, but not for that land. But I think the challenge I find out in Amegoda inherited, the challenge on the issue is the bigger and the larger family. Wata kuigua na tiwa generation ya Amerika na yake Erika na ya gatatu. Wata kuigua taito ni ya mundu wa kuire 1959. No andu matire magima. Ru andu mtu akugaya ukona haria wagairo. Atiaga niho hagi okorwo na muhako. Duka ni mulimo andu matharoretie nyumba. They're there, you know. So maybe if these things had been sorted or one had thought about them, maybe you'd have made perhaps a different decision. The other thing I would want to say about matrimonial property, you can only go to court to claim for matrimonial property upon dissolution of the marriage. And there are two different cases. So it's unfortunate, for one reason or another, then the parties end up filing a divorce. There is a different case for divorce, and then there's a different case for property. Very quickly, now I've even finished my half an hour. What maybe is important to note is niguo igoti rihote woguthikiriria. What is key is what we call contribution. And I wanted to make it very clear, contribution. What is contribution in Kikuyu? Huh? Eh? Mchango. No, there must be a better word for contribution. Eh? Rachel, what is contribution in Kikuyu? Mchango. Eh? Okay, we are together. Yes, but then contribution can be in two ways. It can be financial, it can be non-financial. I think that's what I wanted to make clear. And financial can be direct and indirect. No, they go to the direct share ya 50%. Todo ni do eteroni na nini de hagaroni no ka nini dare hilebesha ishi. That's okay, that's direct. Na no they go to my contribution is indirect. Dere amudhuri ale hagaroni na nini ni da de hagira shena githomo ka nini da urara irio ka nini da twaraga ciana thibitari. That is now financial. But it can also be non-financial. Mashira mare mothe makorete igoti na Hell Morale Supreme Court this year. It is now very clear that kurera ciana, even companionship, kurora mushie, kurora mudhuri, kurora ciana, even everything else that makes a marriage work, converting a house into a home. What a man will give you is a building. All that amounts to contribution. Because that is very clear. Maybe what might make a difference is just the percentage. Because then if there is financial, whether direct or indirect, then you are likely to get 50%. But if you are the others is case by case basis. Onakogea shiana, heshira waigire, no do amutumia risk her life na udhiaga cesarean. She had had very many cesareans. That in itself was contribution. She was risking her own life for the sake of the family. And that's how, anyway, you propagate life. How else does life continue? Unless we take up that responsibility as women. So I think we all have a stake in terms of contribution. One quick one on matrimonial property. The law also says you should not be evicted from your matrimonial home. Unless mogo already you know aroni afegi, kana hii hadoe naroni by a decree of the court. The new law is very clear that everybody, and including us women, we have a right to stay in the matrimonial home. We are not encouraging them to do so, but at least modern. And I think the important thing is to always seek for help. Speak out. I think that's an issue. Don't suffer in silence. Speak out, speak out. There's a lot of help. There are a lot of organizations that can help you, because the law is very clear. You should never be evicted from the matrimonial home. I think that's matrimonial property in a nutshell. Do I stop there? Because now if I go to succession, it will be a very long story. Yeah, and it's already half an hour, and I think our guests are here. Maybe we can continue another time. So, do you take your succession? Do you take your custody of children? There are very many things that could go on. Yeah, but I think we might not have time for that because my half an hour is gone. Yeah? Okay. All right. Thank you. And there's a very simple book written by Justice Kiambu. It's very simple reading. It has a lot of things, from property to succession to marriages. I would encourage you people to get it. And if you even if you're not a lawyer. So it's Family Law in Kenya by Justice Kiambu. You can look for it and maybe read it at your own time. Thank you.